The Glenn Beck program. Tonight, we look at progressive states. As California goes, so goes the nation. We've got a lot to get to. Come on, let's go. Well, hello, America. Tonight's special focuses on what makes states with progressive policies, what puts them at greater risk than states with more conservative ideals, and who is in deeper trouble. Obviously, a tsunami is going to basically put everybody underwater, and as you'd expect, the greatest crisis since World War II means that right now, 48 states are in real trouble. But there's a big difference between states that will almost always be at risk for going underwater, and then those that are better able to weather the storm. That's based on progressive policies. How progressive are the policies of some of the states? If you look at the states that the Pew Center ranks as the most failing, you're going to tend to see some stuff here. California, Rhode Island, Michigan, Oregon. California, in terms of budget and the debt, look at the debt. Several other key factors. Rhode Island, Michigan, Oregon, all very progressive states. But if you go down the list and you keep going all the way to the bottom, some conservative states pop up. And you might say, wait a minute, hang on, look at this, Wyoming, Nebraska, Texas, Montana. Well, what about Arizona and Nevada? What about those guys? Well, despite conservative policies, the real estate market collapse most seriously affected Arizona and Nevada. Like I said, a tsunami puts everyone underwater. Other states, meanwhile, were running into trouble even in good times. Why? I mean, have you looked at the policies of California? The progressive taxes, almost an 11% income tax just for the state, and other anti-business practices. These states are not only heavily taxing the rich and spreading the wealth, but they also spend like the times are always going to be good. It's always sunny in California. They don't have rainy day funds that can help get them through tough times. No, they pretty much need all of the times to stay good, and probably even get better just to stay afloat. Progressively ramping up their spending has been their real big problem. I've said for a while, as goes California, so goes the nation. California ain't doing so well. It's not any surprise that California's high taxing, high spending, and quite frankly, obliviousness to future concerns sounds a little like what we're doing with the federal government right now. But unlike the government, which can borrow money from the Fed, states start to shut down and start issuing IOUs. In each case, the progressive states counted on the high earners' revenue and the big bonuses, like here in New York. When those things didn't come through, big trouble. Now, here's the good news for New York. New York's foreclosure rate happened to be really low. Why? It's damn near impossible to actually buy property in New York. And so New York wasn't nearly as high on the Pew Center's list as you'd expect. They're still in huge trouble, along with New Jersey. Actually, with all of the states that are reliant on heavy earners, not only do you see a lot of volatility based on market swings that we're in now, but also the millionaire's tax doesn't really work. Look at the volatility of California. Look how the tech bubble and the housing bubble totally wrecked their plans. They drive people out of the states. Here they are. They're just driving people out of the states. Rich people are rich partly because they know how to protect their money. Why would you live in California? If states become too progressive, they go to Texas. And if Texas would become too progressive, they'll just take their money overseas. All this leads to the Northeast being known as the economic black hole. How's business up in the Northeast? Compare now the financial situations of those states in the most trouble with the states that are in tougher times than usual, but far closer to recovery. What you'll find in states like Wyoming and Texas and Nebraska and Montana, North Dakota, that they are generally better able to weather the storm because they have conservative principles. States with broad-based taxes, with low rates, are going to go through downturns. But they're not so, they're much less reliant on the rich people continuing to earn. So they spread everything out. You'll also find a much less of a union influence in these states than these states. Some other states that saved when good times were happening are Florida, Indiana, and they're now doing much better as a result because they had a few dollars in the bank. Here's something else that I want to show you. If you look at the 10 states that rely most on individual income taxes, states like Oregon, Maryland, Massachusetts, North Carolina, New York, Virginia, California, you'll see how the states with progressive income tax are generally in worse shape due to the fact that these people, they're just relying on personal income tax. Then check out the states, the 10 states that concentrate their spending on public welfare. Maine, Rhode Island, Minnesota, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New York. I mean, you see this? Progressive social policies mean they're more likely spending and spreading the wealth than they are saving that wealth or keeping money in the hands of individuals. Even the more dramatic charts, the charts of volatility of the taxes collected from 1990, compare California here to Texas. Look at this. Here's Texas. Here's California in good times, and bad. You'll see the total tax collected is more stable by Texas. By the way, Texas has no state personal income tax. None. Well, how is that even possible? Our federal government would tell you that can't happen. Oh, Texas can't even collect taxes. Do they even have roads in Texas? It's obvious which state sees more fluctuations. California. Wouldn't you rather have more of a straight line across? It's more stable. Now, throughout the program tonight, we're going to talk about the bad ideas that have gotten the states into big trouble, the good ideas that protect some states, and how to make things better from the ground up. Also, what should the federal government learn from these 50 experiments all around the country? Let's bring in Troy Senik. He is from California. He is the contributing editor for the Center for Individual Freedom. Scott Hodge is the president of the Tax Foundation, a nonprofit, nonpartisan tax research organization based in Washington, D.C. And Josh Barrow. He is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute, which focuses on tax and budget issues. All right, guys, where should we even start, Scott? Where should we start on how screwed up some of these states are and why?
Well, obviously you've highlighted California as being the #1 problem child in America, where progressive policies have showed that they are not a stable philosophy for running a government. You cannot promise infinite amounts of spending to targeted groups and rely on a shrinking group of people at the top to pay all the bills. It simply cannot happen. And interestingly, as you point out, as California goes, there goes the nation. The federal government is in exactly the same position today. We've knocked millions of people off the tax rolls at the bottom. We're asking a smaller and smaller group of people at the top to pay all the bills. And as you know, spending is way out of control. California is the example that we don't want to follow here in Washington.
And we are. Troy, let me go out to you in California. I mean, I have a hard time, honestly, feeling bad for California. I actually, when I think about California getting bailed out, makes me a little angry. I've always wanted to live in California. I think California is beautiful, love it, but the people that are running the damn state are insane. I mean, an idiot could see this coming. Tell me why the rest of the country should bail California out.
Oh, they shouldn't. I mean, I think that's a perfectly legitimate reaction. The reality is in California, we've taken the legislature rather, has taken one of the 10 biggest economies in the world and managed to saddle it with some of the highest sales taxes, the highest income taxes, the highest car taxes that are around, and they've still driven it to the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, the reality is today, to buy insurance against a default in California's economy is the same rate that it is to buy insurance against a default in Kazakhstan.
Oh my gosh.
And it's totally ludicrous. Yeah, and last year, you know, we had this fight back and forth over our budget. Our budget deficit last year, in the 2 different sessions that they worked on, it totaled $60 billion. Our deficit, what we weren't able to pay, is the same size as the economy of Croatia.
You know, I see on the chalkboard, what is that? Debt of $541 billion. The next biggest, guys, can you tell me, is $11 billion? Is that right?
Texas.
Texas is how many?
33 billion.
33 billion. I mean, that's staggering. Now, help me out, Josh, on the rainy day funds.
Right.
Who saved anything?
Well, California hasn't saved much of anything. I mean, you were talking about these states, you know, they can only make things work in good times, but California couldn't even make things work in the good times. They haven't really balanced the budget in 6 years, in times when economies were strong and most states were humming along very well. California has a tax system that is very dependent not only on income tax, but on income tax on high-income people. And when those returns were coming in strong, and they kept growing spending very fast, much faster than the economy or personal incomes grew, but even faster than could be sustained by the revenues in the good times. So it's no surprise now that the economy's bad that California is just a complete fiscal disaster right now. It's a crisis of their own making.